Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Billy Taylor scored a touchdown from 21 yards out. The crowd goes berserk. It was November 22nd, 1969. That they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to this week's Visitors Edition. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Joining us in just a moment will be Rutgers beat writer Pat Lanni from NewJersey.com and the Newark Star-Ledger. First, my view from Section 17 to get us rolling. I have to admit, I was nervous at halftime of Saturday's BG game. You hate to let teams like that hang around because it's a Super Bowl type game for them. What made me nervous is how sloppy we were on offense and special teams. I know it's hard to get up for these kind of games, but the way I look at it is, if you want to run the table, win the Big Ten, and get back to the playoffs, you have to bring your A game every Saturday. Luckily, we were better in the second half and took control. The defense was great. Other than a few long balls that got over our backup secondary's heads, it was another stellar performance. That said, I am glad we're done with the first 3 games, because from here on out, every opponent deserves our attention and our best performance. There is a lot to clean up too, and it will be good having Jim back on the sidelines. As well as his assistants did in his absence, it's always better to have your leader on the sidelines. At his Monday presser, Coach Greg Schiano shared his thoughts on Michigan as a whole and the offense.
Great challenge, number 2 team in the country. Probably could be easily ranked number 1. They're that good. And there's absolutely no weaknesses in this team. When you look at what they have, their offensive line, 2-time reigning Joe Moore Offensive Line of the Year. They have an experienced quarterback who can both run and throw accurately at deep, do all the things. He's a future first-rounder at quarterback. They have 2 running backs that are as good as anybody's in the country. A slew of receivers, tight ends.
Schiano had high praise for the Michigan defense and special teams and the opportunity to play against them.
Flip it over to defense. Their defensive line is maybe the best in the country. Big, physical, deep. Linebackers run and hit. Secondary covers well. Kicking game, they have specialists that are arguably the best in the nation. So definitely a tall order, but we need to make sure we take care of us. That's what we need to do. And that's what we'll do in preparation. And then great opportunity to go out to Ann Arbor and go play. So looking forward to it.
Coach also took time to praise this week's Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week, running back Kyle Monangai.
Yeah, he's worked incredibly hard, both his physical development in the strength and conditioning area, become a student of the game. Oftentimes running backs can get away just by being naturally talented guys, and he is naturally talented, but he's worked very hard to understand run schemes, understand pass protections, and most importantly, understand defenses. So I think he's now what I would call a guy who's in that final quarter of his development here, and those are the guys that we need.
My guest today says Rutgers got off to a 3-0 start last year and ended up winning only 4 games. He says there is a different vibe from this year's team, though. With us next is beat writer Pat Lanni from the Newark Star-Ledger and NewJersey.com. So don't go away. Here with us on our visitors segment this week is Pat Lanni, who covers Rutgers football for NJ Advanced Media, NewJersey.com, and the Newark Star-Ledger. Pat, you're a busy guy. It's great to have you with us.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to my first trip to Ann Arbor, so should be a good one.
Well, it's setting up to be a humdinger, and when you look at this Rutgers team that you cover, off to a really good start. They beat Virginia Tech on Saturday at home in front of 52,000 people, 35-16. Is it a surprise to those of you that cover this team that they've jumped off to that 3-0 start?
Oh, God. Interesting question. If you asked me in the preseason, would Rutgers go undefeated in its non-conference schedule, I think I would have said yes. So I'm not totally shocked by it, but it is encouraging to say the least. So I'm not totally shocked by it because we saw what happened with Northwestern in their season opener. Obviously, that school was rocked by that hazing scandal, and they seem like they're destined towards the bottom of the Big Ten. So Rutgers caught them at the right time. Week 2, Rutgers just took it to Temple. They were the better team. And then last week against Virginia Tech, they just caught them at the wrong time too. They were a little dinged up, and Rutgers played really well. So I'm not shocked, but I think some people are shocked at how well these results have come in. I thought they would be 3-0, but I'm not sure that they were going to win convincingly in all 3 games.
Well, there's 3-0 by just hanging around winning games, but this is 3-0 by being consistently better each week, isn't it?
Absolutely. When you look at this Rutgers team, you see an identity, and that started right from the get-go when new offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka came in and said, listen, we're going to look a lot like Minnesota the last couple of years. We're going to run the ball really well, and we're going to ask our quarterback to make simple throws that keep the chains moving. So offensively, that's what they've done. They've run the ball 66% of the time to 33% in pass. Not exactly the type of modern-day football, but old school in that sense. And then defensively, it's just been Rutgers' calling card. We knew the defense was going to be good. Last year, although they faded late in some games, they flashed some signs of brilliance early on. So we knew that with 77% of the returners coming back on defense, that unit was going to be pretty good, and I think they've shown that through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's just all around been really good fundamental football when I've had a chance to see the Scarlet Knights play. And let's talk about that running game, though. I mean, solid again on Saturday, led by, I think, was it 256 yards they rolled up on Va Tech, led by Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week, Kyle Monungai's 143 yards. And that touchdown run he broke off in the fourth quarter where he bounced it outside and sort of looked around like, where'd everyone go? He just took it to the house. That was a beautiful run. And this young man is a very good running back, isn't he?
He has certainly been sensational for Rutgers. And it's really funny because we keep writing that coming out of high school, Kyle Monungai was very under-recruited. He had one scholarship offer from Cal, and this is when Greg Schiano was first coming back. So the Don Bosco prep coach where Monungai went to high school, it's a very well-known high school in New Jersey for being one of the best programs. But anyway, their coach got up on the table and said, guys, Schiano, you got to look at this kid Monungai. He's got brilliance written all over him. And Schiano took him at his word, offered him, and now Rutgers is getting the fruits of that labor. So Monungai has always been kind of doubted. And even coming into this year, people were saying, Samuel Brown, the fifth, was going to be the guy coming off the injury. He flashed his brilliance last season before getting hurt. It's just always felt like Monungai's kind of been a little bit of an underdog. And here he is with the spotlight firmly on him. And right now leads the Big Ten in rushing.
Pat, today at Coach Schiano's presser, he was asked about Monungai, and he was talking about how he is a worker. He understands what everyone on offense has to do. He understands the defense. That's part of the progress that he's made. But one of the things you really have to like about him, and coaches like this, is the fact that he seems to get stronger in the second half of games, which he did again on Saturday when he broke off that big run. But that is huge.
Yeah, he's a little wrecking ball.
Yeah,
not the biggest guy. He's 5'8", but he's a grinder. And you're 100% right. He gets better as the game goes on. And a lot of that has been what you also like about to hear from Monungai is it's never about him. It's always about the team. he always credits the offensive line. To the offensive line's credit, they've been really good in the fourth quarter. They've rotated a bunch of guys up front. They're playing upwards of 10 guys on the offensive line, which is really unheard of at Rutgers. And they're helping Monungai really explode late in games. But you're right. Part of it's Monungai, part of it's the offensive line, part of it's coaching. But all of it's added up to a really nice recipe for Rutgers.
Let's talk about starting quarterback Gavin Wimsatt because he's a big part of that running game. I know Coach Schiano, again, in his presser was asked about, was he happy with the progress he was making throwing the ball? And Coach said, yeah, he's doing what we ask him to do. He's getting better and better each week. But he's a big threat in that running game, isn't he?
He is an athletic quarterback. There's no question about it. He came in as one of the highest-ranked dual-threat quarterback recruits in the country. And you're really starting to see him become more comfortable with the run game. And that comes down to they're running a lot of RPO stuff and jet sweeps. And I think as he's mastering the offense, you're seeing the evolution of his running ability. And then, like you said, when it comes to the passing game, it's just about making the right throws, reading the defense well. Rutgers isn't asking him to be J.J. McCarthy. They're asking him to be Tanner Morgan, if you think back to Minnesota last year, just a guy that helped Minnesota move the chains and let Muhammad Ibrahim just kind of work methodically in the run game. So I don't want to call Wimsatt a game manager because he has dynamic abilities with his legs, and he can certainly throw the long ball really well. But right now, Rutgers wants him to be a game manager, and the best thing, if you're a Scarlet Knights fan, he hasn't turned the ball over once. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And Coach mentioned that he takes care of the ball. That's the biggest thing they ask him to do. When we're talking about this Rutgers team and their identity, they want to lean on that running game, and why not with the Monungai back there and Wimsatt being able to run the ball. On the throwing end, I know Rutgers lost their three best receivers last year. Wimsatt is 34 of 66, 3 TDs this year. And as Coach mentioned at his presser today, you do see him making that progress from week to week, don't you?
You see the progress. You've seen what I describe as the intermediate game for Wimsatt has really improved, and his accuracy has been much better than a season ago. The stat line was really shocking last year. He had the second lowest completion percentage among FBS quarterbacks who threw X amount of passes, whatever it was. It was at 44%. Can't win games when you complete passes at 44%. Now Shiraka and Schiano have him playing ahead of the sticks. He's making good throws on third and manageable. And the best stat that highlights that improvement is he's completing something like 84% of passes inside of 10 yards. That's up like 20 to 30% from last year. Huge improvement there.
Well, let's flip it over and talk about the Rutgers defense we're going to see on Saturday night, which is the calling card of this team and really is on most Schiano coach teams. It's been very good so far. 8 starters returned from last year. This is another good defense that he's put together, isn't it, Patrick?
We knew coming into the season that it was going to be a good defense. We didn't know how good it could be and what the feeling was. My best guess was that it was going to be, or my best hope was that it was going to be a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten defense with the potential to be somewhere in that upper tier. But right now, just from the stats alone, they're top 10 against the run, giving up something to 64 yards per game. They're pressuring the quarterback at a high level, and they're taking the ball away at a very high level. 7 turnovers through 3 games. So just very impressive stuff from the defense. And now you talked about the experience coming back. What's also huge is the depth this year, because that was the biggest issue last year. Late in games, Rutgers kind of imploded defensively. They had the effort. They had that swarming tackle, that Schiano's calling card for half, 3 quarters, and then things would fall apart, especially in Big Ten play. I mean, you saw it in the Michigan game alone, how quickly that unraveled in the third quarter. So I think what's better this year about the defense is the depth, and like you said, the experience that came back, had a year in the Big Ten last year.
Well, I know watching the game on Saturday, Aaron Lewis really jumped out at me, defensive lineman who Michigan fans are familiar with. He's a disruptive force.
Yeah.
And the defense was just very physical up front. The linebackers running to the ball really well. So who are some of the other big contributors on that defense, Pat, that we can watch for on Saturday?
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Lewis. Starts with him, no question about it. The linebackers you mentioned, Tyreen Powell and Deion Jennings, are all over the field. But most importantly on this Rutgers defense is its secondary. Rutgers has put a lot of guys to the NFL. I mean, it's not Michigan, but Rutgers has put a lot of NFL guys in the secondary to the NFL. And I think this secondary is one of the best it's had under Schiano. You look at the safeties, very good. They got a transfer from Minnesota, Flip Dixon, has been incredible. Easily the best transfer portal player they've had. And then you pair him with two really elite cornerbacks. Max Melton is getting all Big Ten buzz, right up there on some NFL draft boards as a potential top 10 player at cornerback. And then opposite of him is Robert Longerbeam, who has 2 picks on the season. So I think they're really good in coverage, and just front to back in the defense, just really good. And Urban Meyer broke this down in one of his segments. They really swarm to the ball really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they really tackle well. They hit hard, and it's just very symbolic of what Schiano has always instilled in his players. Like, they're tough. This is a tough team and a really tough defense.
No question about that. Fun to watch. Schiano is in his second stint with Rutgers now, Pat, and he's built a formidable defense. As we said, that's the calling card. But through this second stint back, the offense has struggled, really to gain an identity. And Coach brought in a new offensive coordinator this year. So what changes, if any, has he brought to Rutgers and what they want to do schematically?
It's huge difference from last season. And the changes in offense has been, to me, the biggest storyline of the season. Rutgers was anemic offensively last season, one of the worst offenses in the country. All the stats point to that. It was as bad as it gets. But Schiano brought in Kirk Shiraka, former Minnesota offensive coordinator, and he's just simplified everything. Rutgers knew they were going to have a good defense, so they said, how do you play complementary football, right? You simplify everything. You run the ball really well, you make easy throws on third down, and you possess the ball. So the 3 biggest changes for Rutgers offensively is this simplification, and it all starts with possessing the ball, running the ball really well, and staying ahead of the chain. They've done that at a really high level, and you're seeing it pay huge dividends.
Well, Pat, according to ESPN, Rutgers has the 9th toughest schedule in the country this year, and that's in a large part, we know, because they're in the Big Ten East. Last year, they were 4-8 overall, already 3-0 this season. How far away is this program from being able to, give themselves a chance every year against the Michigans, Ohio States, and Penn States of the division?
I think now, conversely, you said they have the 8th or 9th toughest schedule the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Through the first 3 games, they had the 122nd toughest schedule, right? So they've gotten off to this great 3-0 start. They've looked really good. Now it's time the real test comes. I think they're still a few years away from being competitive with the Michigans, Ohio State, Penn State. You got to think about it like this. It's been 10 years since Rutgers has beat a top 25 team. That's not even talking about a top 10 team. You got to go back to 2006, 2007, when Rutgers beat Louisville in that amazing game. But I think Schiano would tell you the same thing. They're getting closer. You can see the improvements. And what he always talks about is what it takes to develop a program. You got to have guys coming in the pipeline and guys coming out the NFL, out the other side, going to the NFL. He thinks they're somewhere in the middle of that. And I think just give him a couple more years to really turn this rock. I mean, he's in year 4. Usually that's a pivotal year. But I think with this rebuild, you're starting so low that you got to give him a little bit more time. And I think they're maybe a year or 2 away from knocking off one of the blue bloods.
Yeah, and as far as from a recruiting point of view, Rutgers is in a talent-rich area. Heck, we all know that. Michigan loves recruiting there, especially in the Catholic schools. Is Coach getting more and more of the local Jersey kids' attention with the program he's building?
I think so. And I think the difference is, and you hit the nail on the head there, really tough to convince those 5-star, the best kids in the country, that Rutgers is the best place for them. You see like the Jabril Peppers and Rashawn Garys that went to Michigan. Those guys are tough to keep at Rutgers, right? Because they have such bigger aspirations. What Rutgers wants to do is get the 3-4-star guy and turn them into let them play early on and develop into a 4-year starter that by the time that they're at the end of that pipeline, they're ready to go to the NFL and they're great players. But Rutgers isn't getting that 5-star kid off the street the way Michigan is. But with that said, Rutgers has recruited better under Schiano. There's no question about it. One of the good stats of Schiano is the last 3 years, he's gotten the number 1 ranked recruit in New York State. That's pretty good to me. So
Yeah.
you'll see one of them on the field actually Saturday. He's a receiver, Ian Strong, true freshman.
Getting back to this year's edition of the team, as far as the eye test goes, man, Rutgers looks good. They're physical. They're well coached, as we've been talking about. And I thought it was really great Saturday to see 52,000 plus in the stand there. I mean, the crowd, especially the student section, was really into it, which I know even the players after the game were saying, that's great. And I think the first thing out of Coach's mouth at his post-game presser was, hey, I want to thank the student section. That was that was really great. But what it means, though, is the fan base is really excited about this team, aren't they?
I would say so. I think, listen, Rutgers has started 3-0 the last 2 years. Like you said, last year finished 4-8. The year before that, 5-7. So, but there's something different about this 3-0. You can feel it. You can feel the energy from the crowd. You can feel it from the players on the field. Like they're starting to just, there's a buzz, and it's really hard to describe that, put that into words. But it does feel different than the last 2 years when they started 3-0. It just feels a little bit different, and I think there's definitely some hype around this team right now.
Well, as I said, they passed the eye test, and having watched the first 3 games, I'm impressed. I agree. There's something different about this team, and we'll see on Saturday how much different, but it should be fun. Michigan has not been tested at all this year. I mean, they looked, I hate to say bored on Saturday, but they were sloppy against BG. So give us your thoughts from a Rutgers perspective on what it is strategically when you're coming into the game. I mean, Rutgers, as you said, they have their identity. They want to run that football, which I think would be smart to shorten the game. And the defense is, Michigan has not faced a defense like this. How do you think they match up with Michigan, and what do you think the game plan might be?
Well, if you thought last week was boring, then you're going to be in a snoozer the way that Rutgers plays offensively. Obviously, it gets exciting when they break off a big run or throw the ball downfield, but Rutgers wants to run it 3-4 yards at a clip and just possess the ball and really slow things down. I think that's the key to this game is how much can Rutgers shorten the game. You got to keep Michigan's offense off the field as best you can. Rutgers has been really good at possessing the ball so far. Obviously, sustaining drives against Michigan is going to be its biggest challenge to date. There's no question about that. But the strategy is simple. You're going to run the ball, and you're going to play good defense. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and you know, the new rule changes this year with the clock running after each play, that really sort of, for running teams, grinded out teams, that helps them too.
Absolutely. It doesn't help the press members, the media members, though, because these games have not been shortened at all. Like, they're still running really long, too long, in my opinion.
If you look at the video replays and if you're watching at home, the extra commercial time in that respect, it doesn't seem like it's any shorter at all. So, at any rate, it is going to be fun having Rutgers in Saturday at the Big House. And here with us today on our Visitors Edition has been Pat Lanni, who covers the Scarlet Knights for NJ Advance Media, NewJersey.com, and the Newark Star-Ledger. It's been a pleasure having you on the show with us, Pat, and we look forward to a visit again next year.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, and see you Saturday.
On Quick Hits today, it will be good to have Jim back on the sidelines this week, and at his Monday presser, he sounded jacked up. We'll have more on that later in the week. On Thursday's Game Day show, we'll have the latest injury news, some interesting pregame notes, and the weather forecast for Saturday's game. Our special guest will be Michigan beat writer Austin Meek from The Athletic. Remember to like us on Facebook and X, and leave a note or comment wherever you get your podcast. Thank you in advance. That will do it for now. Make sure you tell your Wolverine family and friends about us, and tune in on Thursday. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!